So I grew up in Kingston, Jamaica. I came to London when I was 18 and a half. The major cinema when I was growing up was the Carib Cinema, and they would pretty much show, spaghetti westerns. But also I saw a film called The Harder They Come, which is the kind of big film that's come out of Jamaica. I remember thinking, wow, because it was a stage of like when you kind of see yourself on the screen. So there was that moment in, I think, Jamaica's history.
I still believe that you're dead as well. Starry Spark. That was my hardest part. Never gonna see you again. The hardest part. Rest in peace, Mark Duggan. Gone but never forgotten.
Yes, you've had narratives, you've had stories that handle this idea of kind of what goes, gang, kind of gang culture, it tends to come from a kind of a point of view of, they're living in this space and they've gone about and they've become gangs, and it's a very kind of right-wing perspective. And I don't think we have enough stories that reflect a left-wing perspective, which says, well, actually, it's not to make excuses, but it's to just reflect that, well, this comes from somewhere. So this is why The Hard Stop really, it was also important to set that historical context as well.
Broadwater seems typical of inner city deprivation.
Around 2,000 people live here. Just over half of them are black.
This is Mark's old house. To that window, that's his old house. He used to live on the farm.
Both contributors and the local community are very distrustful of the media, and so it was very difficult, extremely difficult to develop that trust with them. We felt, but it was necessary to get that point of view of the media still in the film as we were making a nuanced project. And so, but then there's a conversation about, well, how do you do that? Because so we started off reflecting the media, the kind of news items. You could see it. We would use, for example, talking heads, and quite quickly realized that wasn't working. It was making it into another kind of film, and we really wanted it to be very creatively done.
Who was the real Mark Duggan?
For many people in Tottenham, the arsonists have hijacked a burning grievance.
But the police shot an unarmed man.
Many parts of the public feel like police just close ranks and protect each other.
A black man's life is worth nothing, and that is how many people in this area genuinely feel.
The police insist Mark Duggan was armed and a direct threat. His family say he was killed in cold blood.
For starters, the characters were really compelling, so that's what drew me to the project, was that, well, for example, Marcus, the lead character, he's very, because his presence in front of the camera is really quite something. And so immediately I said, we can't just make it observational. It needs to have some other layers, and so immediately I started to think about having certain fictionalized sequences, and think about its kind of interior thoughts, or these notions of, well, these guys, yes, they're living this life, but of course they have dreams. That it's about aspiration. It's transformed my being, actually, and I know it's done the same for George. I mean, I think including those voices will help the cinema tradition in terms of enabling it to move away from this constant traditional kind of insular kind of narrative, which I think is stifling. We're now global citizens, and I think I think you have to kind of reflect that. That's our journey now. My next project I'm developing, I will be directing it. It's a story about a Nigerian sex worker named Lucy and her journey and her experience in Paris. Even though this film is about migrant young women who are involved in the sex trade, it's also about unpacking sexual desire from a feminine and a masculine perspective. It's that thing as well where in order to understand certainly in order to understand gender inequality, I think we need to understand masculinity and not feel that if we're making a film about, kind of female gender and stuff, it should just have female or, just be about, the nuances of femininity and sexuality in society and in our being and how we interact. We're always interacting with the masculine and that masculine energy. And so I think a very feminist film is about actually unpacking masculine energy.